everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Mostly Wrong Opinions. I am Tyrone. That gentleman right there is Devin. And what we got for you today is the devil all the time.
How and why people from 2 points on a map without even a straight line between them can be connected is at the heart of our story in Knock 'em Stiff.
You ever think about how we ended up orphans living in the same house?
This movie came out last year. It was a little surprise. It was distributed by Netflix, and it stars Tom Holland, Spider-Man. Okay, it stars Georgie. All right, Bill Skarsgård,
Okay.
which is he's a phenomenal actor. Sebastian Stan. The cast is crazy. Who else is in this thing?
It's got Tom Holland, Bill Skarsgård, Jason Clarke.
Jason Clarke.
He was in what was he was in Terminator Genesis.
Terrible
film. Oh my God. Sebastian Stan. Everybody was in this movie. Robert Pattinson was in this movie. The future Batman's in this movie. It's like an all-star cast here.
Let me tell you about the devil all the time. This movie takes place in what is it? Knock Stiff? Knock 'em Stiff.
Knock 'em Stiff, West Virginia, I think, right? Was it West Virginia?
And I was like, is that?
Because I was confused because they bounce back and forth between West Virginia and Ohio. So I know they're in Meade, Ohio, then Knock 'em Stiff, West Virginia, and there's like another town, and
Bro,
yeah,
and
it's a country
crazy, man. This takes place some years after World War II, and
It takes place in one part takes place in 1950, the other 1957, and then after that it jumps into the 60s. Yeah. But 1950 I think is the furthest back we go.
And let me tell you, the devil is in this movie. Every character in this movie, with the exception to me of Tom Holland, is a bad person. Okay,
Tom Holland is a bad person
too.
They're all bad.
But he was misguided bad.
No, Tom Holland was the main character, so you understood why he was doing bad things.
But everyone else,
everyone in this movie is not so great.
So Knock 'em Stiff, West Virginia.
Yeah,
The movie starts off with Bill Skarsgård. He's coming back from the war. I'm not going to get too much into spoilers, but he's a religious man, and everyone in this town is religious folk. And he's come back from the war.
I gotta stop you already, man. He's the only character who's initially religious.
Yes, until something happens to his wife.
Right, Knock 'em Stiff they're very religious there, but he's kind of faking it because of an experience he had during the war. Until something happens with his wife.
Yeah, and then he just goes crazy. Okay.
Right.
He goes crazy. And the scene, the vision, the visual shots in this movie is terrifying. Hey, Neville Longbottom was in this movie, wasn't from Harry Potter? He was the crazy preacher with the spiders.
Oh, was that him? Wow. He was great. He was great too.
He was amazing. And I'm like, yo, and let me tell you, there's, including Neville Longbottom, people, him, Tom Holland, and Robert Pattinson are all British actors putting on a Southern accent, and they're doing amazing in this movie.
Yeah, some kind of like West Virginian, like it's a very strange kind of specific accent, you know.
So Bill Skarsgård character is William, comes from home from war, and he settles down with a woman that works at a cafe, who's played by Haley Bennett, and things go awry. Like, he's teaching his son. He has a son with her eventually. I'm skipping some things, but he has a son with her, and you meet several characters in that cafe that she works. These two other characters, which is one is played by Jason Clarke, and the other one is played by Riley Keough. And at that point, it's kind of like Bill Skarsgård sees her. He's attracted to the waitress that Haley Bennett plays, and he likes the fact that she helps out a homeless man that comes in, gives him a sandwich out in the back, and they hit it off, and they hit.
Right. He's Bill Skarsgård. He's not from this area. Like this diner is in Meade, Ohio, and he's only passing through Meade, Ohio to go back home to knock him stiff.
Yeah.
So he just happens to be there. And the movie, so there's, especially in the beginning, there are these moments where all these characters just kind of happen to be in the same spot. But the movie is based on a book, so it has like a narration, like a book does, like a novel. And the narration explains that these towns are so small that, of course, everyone bumps into everybody, everyone knows everybody, and everyone is blood related to everyone else by some way or another. So that's kind of how they explain, like, why, like you said, almost all of our characters happen to be in this diner at the same time in the beginning.
And the narration is being narrated by the writer of the book. Thomas. Who is the writer of The Devil All the Time?
The Devil All the Time story was written by Donald Ray Pollock.
I said Thomas. Donald Ray Pollock. It was narrated by him. And when his narration, when he was talking throughout the story, at some points I thought he was talking from a viewer standpoint, seeing it in third person, but at other points I thought he was speaking in second person too, or in first. But back to the story here. Everyone in that town where he goes back to go visit his mother is very religious in Knock 'em Stiff. And he finds this house, this barn up on the hill, and it's nice. And he goes around the backyard of it just to check it out and everything. By this time, he already has a son, which is the baby version of Tom Holland. and he does he build that cross right then and there when he?
No, he doesn't, because again, he grew up very religious. Yeah. And he lost his religion after seeing something atrocious in the war.
Yeah.
So when he went to the back, he saw the spot where the cross would be, but there was no reaction. He didn't think anything of it. And as a matter of fact, the narration explains, like, he is often haunted by the images that he saw in the war whenever he sees a cross. So he not only is he like not religious, he seems to be like almost like he seems to almost be repelled by it, because the images always remind him of what he saw. He saw a man crucified during the war, and he had to kill this man as like a murderer.
He's like crucified in his skin.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah,
terrible.
He had flies and
so
everything.
This image haunts him, and he tells no one. That's also interesting, in that he never shares that story with anyone ever. It's always super personal, and because Knock 'em Stiff is so religious, like he can't escape like cross imagery or religious imagery, and it seems to just make him sadder and sadder. But he just goes along with it because he knows that to go along with it is how you get along in Knock 'em Stiff.
But that pain that he went through is something that follows his son.
Yeah. That pain and that rage, it's always like simmering just beneath the surface. And you're right, he ends up passing that same rage to his son.
Mm-hmm.
And he ironically passes his hesitancy towards religion also to his son,
yes.
in almost the exact same way, but he didn't intend to do that. No. So he essentially passed that same trauma down to his son almost the exact same way. It was very, very interesting.
Yeah, and it was one. Let me tell you about the shots in this. The shots are beautiful in this movie.
Yeah, beautifully shot. Beautiful.
I mean, it was intense in some parts. It didn't have me guessing to what's going to happen next, because the way this director and the editor would do things in this film, he would show you something and he'll remind you of what, an emphasis on what is actually being shown. You know what I'm saying? From what happened in the past, because there's time jumps in this movie.
Yep.
And it's done very, very well. What do you think about some of the other characters?
I thought the characters are really good. And I thought the actors, oh my gosh. So, like, I think the standout things about this film are the actors. Like, I think everyone absolutely kills it, especially the preacher that we were talking about earlier. That he's great. Tom Holland is awesome. He's a little bit understated, just like Bill Skarsgård was initially, because he keeps all this like rage in, but then it like boils out later. I thought so. For me, the standout was the cinematography, the actors, and the actors were fantastic. And what's interesting though with the characters they're playing was when Bill Skarsgård went to church, which he was not too keen on doing. Right. He went with his mother because his mother asked him to go, and his mother did it not to teach his son some religion, but his mother did it to hook him up with the local girl. So I thought that was kind of funny. How so much business is conducted through the church, you know. Mm-hmm. But obviously he was not interested in this girl, and her religious fanaticism wasn't exactly a turn on for him. So he more or less ignored her the whole time. But she did end up falling in love with another character. Yeah,
she ended up
that same day.
She ended up falling in love with a character. Boy, a character who takes religion very, very literal and serious.
Yep.
Who's I call him Neville Longbottom from Harry Potter. But that man did an amazing job convincing me that he was a Southern preacher from like super deep South.
Are you washed in the blood, in the soul cleansing blood of the Lamb? Are you gone?
And he has this,
who is also probably psychotic.
Oh, yes.
and just probably lost his mind. But like you said, he's like the truest of true believers, and he wants to prove it to you. That's his thing. He wants to prove how much of a true believer he is. And I think you're about to get to how he likes to prove his faith.
Oh, this man did something that no person that's in their right mind would do. He goes up to the altar and his brother is singing the song. He's singing the church song in the wheelchair. His brother's in the wheelchair. And he's like, and this man is telling a story, preaching to the people about how God has ridden him of his fears of spiders. That he's okay with spiders now. I don't know how this man did it, but he collected a jar of spiders. I don't know what you do to collect a jar of spiders, but apparently it's possible. And yes, people, what he does is the unthinkable. He dumps the spiders on his head, and he's like, brothers and sisters, look!
The Lord looks out for me now!
Look at him. He's doing all this, and...
But what's interesting about it, though, is the crowd's reaction. They're not all like, yeah, this is so great. They're all like, oh, it's terrible. They're aghast. But he's like, have no fear. The God has taken my fear away. And it's crazy. Except for one person in the crowd. One person in the crowd really liked it. But other than that
chick that his grandma wanted to hook him up with, she's like, yes. Like, I love that religious daddy. So she's just so into it. Ooh, LMA, whatever. But yeah, so they basically they hit it off. They have a daughter. Bill Skarsgård before has a son, and you see time jumps where his son is a little bit older, and he comes home from school. He has a shiner on his eye, and he's like
he's 7 years old, and it's they keep the age easy because he was born in 1950 and they moved in 1957. You're like, great, 7, got it.
And he has a shiner, and he's like, I'm about to teach this boy, and they go to the back where they go and pray, right? And these two wilderness dudes come out of nowhere.
Well, hold on. Before they go to the back, we got to explain that when they first look at the house, right? Bill Skarsgård went to the back. He saw the spot where a cross would be later, but he didn't do anything. But he did put up a cross later to try and I guess he's trying to find his religion, right? He's trying to get back into it. He knows his mother's a true believer. He knows the whole town's really into it. So he takes 2 boards off the house.
His wife sings a lot.
Yep, she does. So he takes 2 boards off the house, fashions an old rickety cross out in the woods where he prays alone. This seems to be just the place where he goes by himself to try and find religion. But I believe you're describing the scene where he takes his son to that spot, and it seems to be like this is the first time he's ever taken his son there. And it's because that place used to be, or prior to that, used to be a very private place. But he invites his son there, and they have a little prayer.
Yep. And these 2 guys come out of the woods like they were hunting, and they start talking shit about him and his wife. And he says, "Don't mind them, boy. This time is for the Lord's time and no one else's."
Mm-hmm. Because Tom Holland, baby Tom Holland, he was like, "Hey, they talking about my mama," and he was like, "No, this time's for the Lord." But you could tell that Bill Skarsgård was like, but he didn't say anything. He didn't do anything.
It was about to come out, bro.
Yep, he just let that rage simmer right beneath the surface. I think that's a really great scene that showed off Bill Skarsgård's acting capabilities too. Because again, you could understand how he felt, even though that's not what he was outwardly saying.
He, I would say, is the better actor than his brother.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic.
Way better than Alexander Skarsgård.
But the thing with Alexander Skarsgård, he's more conventionally attractive. So that's why he gets more roles, But Bill Skarsgård, he's awesome. Yep.
So after that scene, it basically teaches his son a lesson. From the lesson of basically to stand up for yourself and knowing the right time to pick your battles. And he takes him to the store, and he gets out of his truck because he sees these.
Well, he goes to the store, but he does something unusual that Tom Holland takes note of because it comes up later. He goes to the store and he tells his wife, "Hey, we're gonna go to the store," and his wife's like, "Hey, grab me a bag of sugar," and he's like, "Oh yeah, sure, And so they take off, but they cruise right by the closest store.
Right.
And
right.
Tom Holland, he notices that his father lied to his mother about going to the store. And he's like, huh. And that comes back later because it mirrors some activity that Tom Holland does much later in the film.
Perfect the way that he did it too.
Yeah, it's very subtle because the little boy just looks at the little boy's a great actor too. The little boy just looks out the window and looks at his father and it's like, oh, I guess we doing something else.
Yeah, they went to another store where these dudes that was talking shit, and he gets out the truck. He tells him to roll up his window, stay in the truck with the dog. Gets out there, whoops their ass. I mean, he lets them have it. And you hear them in the back, "Get off him! You're gonna kill him!"
And as a matter of fact, I feel like they left it kind of, for one of them at least, they left it kind of vague as to whether or not he did kill that guy. Because he pushes the guy's face into the mud until he stops moving. And we don't really get an update on that guy's... Is he okay?
Oh, yeah, we don't really get an update with that dude. But does he deserve it? No. To me, he doesn't deserve an update. He deserves exactly what Bill gave him.
Yeah, but we'll see that, and that is, I think, a big theme of the film is this kind of like morally gray area, right? Where those dudes, they deserve that ass whooping. Oh my God! If there's anybody in the film that deserved one, it was those guys. But did they deserve to be beat like that in front of like a child? So there's like a morally gray area as to whether or not it's like, yeah, you did the right thing, but maybe you went like a little too far.
Guess I'm not that moral, bro. I'm not that moral, man.
Well, I'm not talking about your personal morals. I'm talking about the film is saying this may not be the right thing to do.
I agree. I mean, Anyway,
you don't agree, but you understand.
Yeah, don't agree, but I understand. So, he teaches Tom a lesson right then and there, where you stand up for what you believe in, but there's a time and place to pick your battles, and he remembers that for later on that happens.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now on to
well, it turns out that moment, according to Tom Holland's character, was like a key moment in his life. He called that the best day of his life, which is ironic considering what also happened that day.
Yeah. Later on that day, when they got back from the store, his mom.
They remembered the sugar.
They got the sugar, and he got a candy bar too. I forgot what he said. A chewy, zap a chewy. but they went inside the house, man, and his mom's collapsed on the floor. Bill's like, he's like trying to wake her up, and she has cancer, people. She has cancer, and it's very sad. And Bill and the boy, they go to church, they pray for his mom.
Before
they go to the back. Yeah.
Well, before that though, they have doctors. They have doctors come, and they're like, "Oh, there's nothing medicine can do. There's nothing. All we can do is make her comfortable." And Bill Skarsgård is like horrified. So now, in his desperation, you're right. He goes to church more often. He goes to the back. He goes to that rickety old cross that he fashioned, and he is praying hard. He's like, instead of praying quietly like he was doing before, he's like shouting, praying. He's like, "Save my wife, please!
Yeah, save my wife!" And he's telling him to do the same thing. He's like, "You better pray for your mother. Pray for your mother and ask God to save her life." Now that sounds like Varsity Blues, but he's like, "Your life."
And this all this seems to be traumatizing the little boy.
It is.
Like he looks so scared.
But then to no avail, she passes away, and they get in the truck, and after the funeral, he's like, "I'm gonna take you to your grandmother's house, and you see the little girl that's we gotta talk about the little girl."
The little girl is the daughter of the woman that Bill Skarsgård's mom wanted him to be with. It's the daughter of her and the spider preacher.
The spider preacher, exactly.
Yep. And what's funny is, at this point, the spider preacher, and this is a big key point of the theme in the film, he always used to show his face by pouring those spiders on his face, on his head. But at this point, one of the spiders bit him. It bit him on his cheek, and his face had swollen up, and he was embarrassed, and he didn't want anyone to know that his little faith thing didn't quite work. So he was a shut-in for a long time, and at this point he's just now coming out. The swelling's gone down, so he's making his big grand public appearance after he has heard a special message from God.
Yeah. And apparently this message is to kill your wife and I'll resurrect her.
Yeah, exactly.
I know that. I came out the blooper. Spoiler alert. He kills her. And the thing is about that, before that happens, they show a flashback of the baby with his grandmother, and she's reading a note from her son. That's postcard. I said note, yeah. Sorry, I forgot. Postcard. And then they sent from her son from Ohio, and she's like, he pulls up, and she's like, "Can you hold the baby? It shouldn't be too long." And then the narrator's like, "Little did they know that'd be the last time they ever see." I know it's just funny the way I'm saying it. That's the way he said.
No, because that is how it is. It's like, "Oh yeah, give your mama a kiss." Mwah. Little did they know, it's the last time you'd ever see them.
Though she didn't know it, she'd never see Lenora again.
That is how it went.
And find her body 7 miles away from Little Boy.
I'm like,
"Hey
whoa,
man, you wrote this thing. And you reading it like you wrote it. so
yep.
He basically takes her, and he has this whole what does he tell her that he's taking her to?
He says they're just gonna go for a walk to clear their heads, because again he had been shut in the house for a long time after being bit by that spider. So he takes her to the woods. They find a clearing, and he
stabs it in there.
They sit down together. He's like, God loves you so much, and she's like, oh, thank you so much. And she's smiling, and he's smiling, and he goes, bah, and just stabs her right in the neck. And I think the context of him smiling and like he doesn't look bothered by any of this. It's so gruesome, blood spraying everywhere, but he doesn't look bothered by it because he's got a plan. Because he believes this is all a test for God, and he's gonna resurrect his wife right there in the woods. Here we go, baby, and it does not work.
Nope.
Resurrect! Return! Return, spirit! Resurrect!
And he frantically runs off with his brother in the car. And then I'm telling you, his brother says the most thing that anyone else is thinking at the time. And he was like, we'll just call it an accident and they'll understand. And he's like, no, it ain't gonna be.
It's like, well, she accidentally fell on your sword, your knife,
and buried her body.
Yeah, exactly. And what's interesting though is the preacher went straight to lies, right? And when he got scared, when he was backed into a corner, he was ready to lie. He was ready to not tell the truth. That was the last thing on his mind. And that tells you all you need to know about this particular preacher. But all of this, of course, is a big setup for the themes in the future for the movie, because all of these things come back again. The movie, it reminded me a lot of that movie, The Place Beyond the Pines. Did you see that film?
No.
Okay. Well, in that movie, The Place Beyond the Pines, we follow a family through generations of trauma, and they all seem to be going through the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. They don't know because, obviously it's different generations, and it seems to be the same thing in this film, where Bill Skarsgård, who played Tom Holland's father, he goes through all this traumatic stuff with religion. Tom Holland does the same thing, and then the spider preacher's daughter, she falls in love with another preacher type, fanatic type, over and these like cycles of like pain.
That's exactly how it goes. And the spider preacher basically tries to bail out. He leaves his brother there on the side of the road. He hitchhikes, but he hitchhikes with the wrong people.
Yep.
The two people that was in that diner that was flirting with each other was Jason Clarke's character and the other actress. They're basically, he's a pimp, and he's a pimp murderer because
he's some kind of like
serial killer, sadistic, and she goes along with it. They're married, where he takes pictures of people that have sex with his wife, and it's sick, dude.
Like I said, okay, you're gonna fuck my wife, and I'm gonna take some pictures. That's all.
And they just pick these guys up on the side of the road, and he kills them. And he runs along with the spider preacher because the spider preacher is trying to get the hell on, picks him up, and he's like, you're a Christian, and he's like, yeah, you're a Christian, believe in the Lord, you're nice people. And then they pull over the side of the road on this nice little bank of scenery, and he's like, pulls out a gun, he's like, you're gonna fuck my wife, and you're gonna do this. He's like, no, I'm not gonna do that. What are you talking about? And he ends up shooting and killing him because he refuses to.
Well, he refuses because he thinks this is another test of his faith, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna do it because I'm smart. And it just ends his life. That's the end of it.
Yep.
Yeah, that was just the end.
And then it fast forward to grown up Tom Holland, and grown up the little girl that basically didn't have no parents. She's now adopted by Tom Holland's grandmother. And the reason why Tom Holland is there, backtrack real quick, Tom Holland's father, Bill Skarsgård, kills himself. After he kills the dog when he was a kid.
Right.
And it traumatizes. Of course, it traumatizes.
Well, he doesn't just kill the dog any old way.
Oh, yeah.
He shoots the dog and then he crucifies the dog. Crazy. And what's funny is, so we start with this image of Bill Skarsgård seeing the guy from the war being crucified, and then we see the dog being crucified. So it's like, wow, because obviously you're used to seeing that image with like Jesus. And so to see like a dog with flies all around his face, and then like a man who is skinned and burned with flies all around his face, oh, it's disgusting. It's terrible. And it traumatizes Tom Holland in the same way Bill Skarsgård was traumatized from the war.
And he sees his father takes his life because he couldn't deal with his wife being gone. And then a cop comes along who happens to be played by Sebastian Stan, the Winter Soldier.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And his sister is the lady who's married with the guy that kills people with the photography stuff, which is
Again, everyone's all connected.
Yeah.
Everyone's related somehow because these are super teeny tiny towns.
And he is.
I actually looked up some of these towns on Wikipedia. They're real, and they're not even really. They're not even cities. They're like considered like townships. Like they're really small. So that's why everyone's related. Everyone's somebody's sister. Everyone's somebody's cousin, best friend. With the mama, went to church with them. On and on.
With her brother being the sheriff, which Tom Holland's about to get taken custody because he has to go to his grandparents' house. He's the cop is infused with like the Southern mob or something like that, right?
Yeah, initially he was just ambitious. He just wanted to be sheriff.
Yeah.
And he seemed like he was a good guy, and he just wanted to like move up and be powerful. And so he did end up becoming sheriff. But in order to do that, he had to take a lot of bribes. He had bribes. He had to be part of, like you said, some sort of mob or shady dealings. And
the girl is getting picked on at school. She's getting her ass kicked and handled to her by these dudes putting bags over her saying that she's trash because she prays to her dead mom and stuff like that. It's ridiculous. Of course, Tom comes out of nowhere and to save her because he's like, that's my sister. You leave her alone. They whoop his ass. But that whole thing about timing comes back where he at a certain point, she's praying at the gravesite by herself with a Robert Pattinson that's boy.
Yeah, my God, he's terrifying.
He is terrifying. He is a preacher in this movie because his father is out of town. He comes in from a preacher school to take over the church in town, and he takes advantage of every woman that's in there because he's a pretty boy.
But he's a pretty boy, and he's also a fanatic, just like the spider preacher was, and he uses religion to like coerce and convince all these girls to like come have sex with him in the car.
Have you shown yourselves as the Lord made you?
You're meaning my birthday soon.
No. To show yourself as the Lord made his first children is to truly turn yourself to him.
Tom's all fighting those bullies one by one, taking them out like his dad did, and he takes them out in gruesome form, an awesome form too. And he has sex with this girl. The preacher has sex with his sister several times because she convinced that the Lord told her to, and she ends up being pregnant. And then he denies it, of course, and then he's like, I don't see why you think I'm the daddy when I was just doing what the Lord tells us to do in the scripture.
Well, he has this whole thing where he's like, you must be delusional.
Remember all the things we did in your car?
You must be crazy coming in the Lord's house and talking all this trash.
And he has and after that, that's where he gets this whole like preacher thing where he's like,
delusions. While he's doing all these
will cloud your mind.
Exactly.
Some girl gets a feeling for a fella and lets him have her holy gift. Delusions!
blaspheming the Lord in your mind and in your heart.
He did all these delusion stuff. He basically told her, you need to get rid of it or your grandmother is not going to accept you. And she attempts to, hang herself. Unfortunately, at the last minute, she tries to change her mind about hanging herself, and she ends up hanging herself, which is very sad. And Tom Holland finds her in the barn, and he is broken to pieces over it. And no one knew that she was pregnant. And one of the sheriffs in town, he says she was pregnant, and then he finds he has a connection, and he's like, I think that shady preacher has something to do with all this, basically.
Yep, mm-hmm.
And he gets this gun that his father was passed down to his brother, and his brother gives it to him on his birthday. Loads it up, and he's like, I'm taking the time that I did to do it. He finds Robert Pattinson in the church, and he has this monologue with him that's perfect. Okay.
Yep. The monologue reveals that he knows
exactly
all of Robert Pattinson's shady dealings and rapings, and he knows all about
that. He's a married man, and he treats her like crap, all that. Wife, and he shoots him cold blooded and dead, and he tries to get the hell on. So he skips town. He runs. His car breaks down. He runs into those crazy people again. The lady and the dude, serial killers.
Yep.
And long story short, he ain't like the other people. Those are the dudes that they kill. Okay, he sees that he has a gun in the back pocket when he goes to go take a leak, and he's gonna try to kill him. But nah, he had his little 9 on him. Shot that dude up. Great action there. And the girl in front seat, she gets a gun. She didn't really want to kill him, but she had blanks in his gun because her husband did not trust her.
Right, exactly.
It's crazy, dude. And
she gets the shot off first, but it's a blank.
It's a blank. And then
and so she gets shot in the throat.
He runs, and the same cop who found him as a child found out that he shot his sister, and he knew where he was going. He was going back to his parents' home. And they have a showdown there. Sebastian Stan and him have a showdown out there. And like Tom Holland's a great shot. He shoots him
apparently,
in the abdomen and kills the cop. And he's like, I'm really a good man. And he buries that gun. He tries to leave all that negative stuff in the past. And he
right. So the gun is symbolic because the gun it's a German gun that his father gave. His father gave to his grandfather, then his grandfather gave to Tom Holland. So it's a gun that's been passed down from generation to generation. And you're right. At the end of the film, he tries to bury the gun, which again is symbolic for the past. And he buries the gun with the remains of his dog, which was never buried. They just left the dog out there in the woods because no one wanted to touch it because it was crucified.
Exactly. So, and he gets on the road and he trusts another person to fall asleep, and the narrator did a great job of describing of him being asleep or being awake and what it feels like. He can imagine him back in the war and things like that. It was just great imagery, and it cuts to black. So
right. So like the big theme of this film again, like is like the cyclical nature of trauma, the cyclical nature of just life in general. His father before him, Tom Holland's father before him, had to fight in World War II. It's heavily insinuated that Tom Holland will end up in Vietnam. So these wars came right back. That gun was passed down from father to son. The preacher spider's wife obviously fell in line with the wrong person, and then the preacher spider's daughter did the same thing with another preacher. Mm-hmm. So these things just go round and round and round, and all of this terrible, horrible things are happening in a town that's super small. Everyone knows each other, and everyone is like super religious. And a lot of people use religion to try and mask.
That's what I was about to say.
They try to use religion to try and mask some of the terrible, awful things they do. Like when I was watching the film, I was like, is this movie trying to say something about religion? I don't think it is. I think it's trying to say something about how people abuse it and use it, and bad people take advantage of otherwise good people with religious ideology and things like that.
Absolutely, that I totally agree with you. People, I recommend this movie wholeheartedly. It is on Netflix. It has some of the greatest actors doing great jobs in this movie. I don't know if any of these people got nominated. They should have if they didn't. My rating for this movie, I have no reason to give this a bad rating. This is a 10.
A 10, wow. Okay. I think I will give this movie probably 8.5. And I'm going to give it an 8.5. Damn, that's a lot of water, dude.
Gotta be healthy, baby.
Okay. I'm going to give this movie.
Damn!
Yeah, for real. I'm going to give this movie 8.5. Only because I'm not sure if I can recommend it. And the only reason I'm not sure if I can recommend it is because it is a very dark film. It's a very tough film. After the movie's over, you're not going to be in a good mood, right? You're not going to be feeling good. I
was in an okay mood because I don't know, because I guess I'm more sinister in some ways, and I'm okay with seeing stuff like that, and it doesn't bother me. I admire that a filmmaker is going to go there and touch on something that's touchy, man. Don't sugarcoat nothing with me. Whatever story that you give me, tell me.
Yeah, I'm with you right there. The story is top notch, and clearly we said this in other episode. I believe we said this in the Army of the Dead episode, where I was like, why did you make this movie? Did you have something to say? And clearly this director, this writer, especially the writer, had something to say, right? He had something to say about how people abuse religion and use it to manipulate and trick people and hurt people. Because it's also notable that those serial killers also use religion when they were talking to their victims, right? Yeah. They had one victim, his name was Matthew, and they're like, oh, that's a religious name. Yeah. And the guy's like, is it? He didn't know. Yeah. But they use religion to try and like coerce people and convince them that they're good people, and they're not monsters, but deep down, nope, they are. And the title, just to go real quick, it's called The Devil All the Time, but apparently the title is kind of short for Bill Skarsgård. Supposedly, he felt like he had to fight the devil all the time. Yeah. And that is a big theme where people are supposedly fighting the devil, but again, there's literally
only one person that's fighting the devil all the time. That is Bill Skarsgård.
Yep. Yep. Everyone else, they seem to be trying to run from their pain, which I guess could be a way of fighting the devil, or they're using religion in a bad way. But yeah, I like the movie. I thought it was a good movie. It was better than I thought it would be. But it is a very dark movie. It can be disturbing, like you said, some of the imagery with the dog being crucified. Mm-hmm. It's only up there for a second, but it's like, whoa, it's so shocking. So, yeah, it's a good movie, but I can only recommend it if you're like Tyrone and you don't mind these like super dark, sad movies, because this movie is pitch black.
The only movies that hits me close to home when it has to do with my people, with my black people, and I recommend those movies and stuff like that, like Strange Fruit and all that. The Billie Holiday versus the United States. Yeah, United States, mm-hmm. With some horrible imagery in that too. But yep. I just bring it to me, man. Just give me good stuff. Give me good stuff.
Totally. I like the movie. Good story. I was into it. It's a little longer than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I was like,
I enjoyed the movie so much I didn't mind, because I kind of wanted to stick around. I wanted to see what else was around the corner and knock them stiff. But yeah, it's a longer movie.
Yeah. So we just knocked them stiff on this review here of The Devil All the Time.
I have to. Not because I want to.
Okay, so what's up next is another movie talking about trauma and pain in a different way. Mm-hmm. It is Unhinged, starring Russell Crowe and some other actors that
That's not important.
Come on, man. Go!
this movie takes place in New Orleans. Russell Crowe is, the famous actor from Gladiator, and what is that? What was $1 Million Baby? What? No, was it? What was it called? Not $1 Million Baby. Cinderella Man.
Oh, Cinderella Man. Okay.
I'm talking about the boxing movie. Sorry, Cinderella Man. all awesome, stuff. One of my favorite Russell Crowe movies was The Quick and the Dead. I like that movie.
I don't think I've seen that movie.
Yeah, buddy, man, that's Gene Hackman. And a young Leonardo DiCaprio. They call him the Kid. It's about he played a preacher.
That's funny.
He played a preacher in that movie, and he used to be a part of an Outlaw. Man, we got to review that movie for sure, because you know who directed that movie?
Okay, who's that?
Sam Raimi.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
okay.
But with this movie, Russell Crowe is a man who lost it all, apparently, to his mind. He's divorced. He lost his house. He lost money. He lost his wife and all this stuff. And he is just fed up to it to the end, And he starts this movie off being in a truck in the rain, and he's taking these pills. I don't know what these antidepressant pills probably. And
the thing said hydrocodone, so that's like some serious stuff.
And this dude takes his wedding ring off, takes off his jacket, and he folds it very particular and puts it down. Like he knows that the rest of his life is not going to be as neat as what he just folded and put down in his truck. Takes a gas tank, takes a sledgehammer, goes into his ex-wife's house, kills her, the husband, burns it down, and that's the beginning of the film. And that's his bad day.
Yep, and at this point, I knew I was going to have a bad day watching this show. Because the movie starts, and it's like, it's a literal dark and stormy night. And I'm like, oh, I could just like see the script saying, on a dark and stormy night. And I'm like, oh.
The night was hot. Wait, no. The night was humid. The night was humid. No, wait. Hot. The night was hot. The night was hot and wet. Hot, wet and hot. The night was wet and hot. Hot and wet. Wet and hot. That's humid. The night was humid.
This movie's gonna be so cliche. Boy, oh boy, it is. Yeah, exactly. This is a very cliche movie. It starts off trite and cliche, and then we've got another hour 30 minutes of trite and cliche action, I guess. I guess it was action?
I say it's desperation for action.
Yeah. The whole movie is the bulk of the movie is car chases, which is interesting, right? That sounds like a good concept. Unfortunately, though, man, it seemed like the budget was real low or something. So these car chases were as bland as possible.
It's like, I'm on the back of a truck. I'm following the car. Hold the camera. Basically, that's what it was.
Yeah, but I can see how someone might think that this would be a really interesting action film where, again, like the whole thing takes place as like multiple car chases. But I found it to be quite the snooze fest.
Now, my mother would disagree with you on that because this movie is made, I have to say it, for women in their 50s who see an actor that they love from the past, and they're like, he ain't never played no bad role like this before. He acted his ass off. Not saying my mom sounds like that. I love you, mama. But I'm just saying, it's definitely for them. It's definitely for what you call it?
I called it a boomer movie. It's 100% a boomer movie.
Exactly.
So a big theme in the film is that there's too much technology, and technology is driving us crazy. It's like, so it's like it starts off with like, it's all stock footage too. Right after the killing, they have a montage of just like stock footage of people on their cell phones, people looking at their cell phones while driving in cars, people being upset and having road rage, mostly because they said there's too much information coming at us at one time. And I'm like,
definitely a problem that we're facing. It's controlling your relationships, your health and well-being. Why is everything filled with such garbage?
People have so much coming at them, their brains just can't handle it.
How old was the person who wrote this film? I mean, this person had to be like, 82, 83 maybe. Like, woo! This movie feels old. And so they got like the little boys talking about Fortnite, and the mom's like, ugh. And another kid, yeah, exactly. Another kid he can't take his eyes off the TV. Another kid likes his iPad. It's like, okay, I get it. You don't like technology. You think technology's gone too far, and they really drive that, I guess, theme to the ground in this film.
I mean, basically, this woman has a bad day that she thinks is a bad day. She got fired from her job in her hair salon, and she got her best client fired her, and
because she was late in traffic.
She was late in traffic, and the boy was like, "Well, I didn't want you to go this way." And what is up with these kids that care so much about school? Like the kid from those who wish me dead. That kid was like, "I don't want to miss the chemistry test," and this kid's like, "If I'm late, I'm gonna have detention." And I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
What? That's your mom.
Yeah. For real. Like, just chill out, man. Dang.
You know? And I'm like, okay. And she's just having a bad day. And she gets behind Russell Crowe, who just committed the murders like no more than 24 hours ago of his wife. And
right. He's got blood on his shirt.
Yeah, he's just chilling. And that acting that she did was atrocious.
There's a lot of atrocious. That's if there was a theme in this film, I feel like that would be the theme. Atrocious acting. Yeah.
She was like,
exactly.
She was like, "Baby, come on, baby," and I'm like, "There's plenty." To me, it's like, yo, there's plenty of room for you to get the hell around him, and just you know. And then so she's stuck in traffic. He comes up behind her, and Russell Crowe has this southern accent that is not like the southern accents in the previous film that we just reviewed.
It's bad. Oh, it's bad.
And he's like, "Raise your window down, son," or something. And he's like, and he started having this whole conversation about being polite on the road.
But that's where we are in this world today. We seem to have developed a fundamental inability to apologize to anyone for anything.
And she ain't trying to hear it. She's like, "Raise your window up, ignore him." and he's like, "See, you know, I'm sorry." He's like, "I'm sorry if I been rude back there and all this other stuff." And he's like, "No, all I need you to do is apologize to me." And she's like, "For what?" She's like, "I ain't apologize for shit." And that just sends him off. He said, Your mother thinks that she has a bad day, but I'm gonna show her about a bad day." And then he goes on this mission to literally kill everyone, or try to kill everyone that she knows.
Right, and it's all because he believes he is owed an apology.
Like the world,
because
like the world owes an apology, not just her, the world.
Yeah, totally. But in that moment, it was. I think he thought he symbolized the world.
Yeah,
because she didn't give an apology, and so after that, yeah, he just like tracks you down and blah blah blah. The problem is with this is supposed to be the motivation, I guess, for the entire film, and it is so thin and lame. It's so thin and lame that you would think, at least I thought at first, that maybe we're going to explore this, right? Because this is the woman is like she's a young woman. She looks like she might be maybe early 30s, late 20s, right? Slight build. Russell Crowe is like a monster of a man. He's humongous. He's big. He's much older. He looks much stronger. He's driving this big old monster truck type of deal, right? In other words, they're not an equal match, right? He could easily just like go body slam her, but so because of that, right? Why does he feel so deeply hurt by her not giving an apology? Like, dude, just go on with your day. You literally just killed somebody. You should move on. So I thought, okay, they're gonna explore this, right? That maybe this is some kind of crazy toxic masculinity thing or something, that he feels like he's owed something from her. Because I was like, okay, I guess that's why they made Russell Crowe gain so much weight, because apparently he did have to gain some weight to play this role. He'd already gained a little weight for a previous role, but he had to gain more weight for this role. So I'm like, okay, so I guess they're trying to explore some sort of toxic masculinity thing. They are not. The movie, what I just said, is deeper than anything in this film. The movie does not touch on any of that. It is truly 100% a veneer, an excuse as to why he just goes off and just makes this woman suffer.
Just derangement.
The movie seems to think that I don't know, that I would understand him. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, he's had a bad day. He's snapped, and I'm like, well, go kill yourself. Okay, what are you doing? I don't understand what you're doing. I didn't, and I feel like I have to understand what he's doing in order to follow this movie, and I didn't understand it.
I didn't understand it at all. It's like,
no.
I don't understand his motivation.
No, he had none. But the movie kept telling you, like, people are just going crazy because of technology. And I think they expected you to be like, yeah, yeah, makes sense to me. And I'm like, no. Yes, technology is big and scary, but there's 6 billion people on Earth. And of those 6 billion, we don't all go on killing sprees. So I don't understand why the logic here doesn't make any sense. I'm not following.
I don't get it, people. And here's the thing. There's really nothing else to talk about with this movie. Because Russell Crowe just goes in and tries to kill his in I guess imaginable ways. He gets into her house and he ties up her brother and he makes her brother kill his fiance and he gets shot in the arm, and everything just leads to something that's even more unnecessary than the last scene.
Right. He also finds, because the woman, she's going through a divorce, and so he finds her divorce lawyer, who apparently they're friends, but it seems to be they're just platonic friends. Yeah, there's no relationship or anything, but he's like, you're having sex with her, aren't you? And it's like, I'm like, what? No. And so I'm like, okay, maybe he just thinks that because he thinks guys are bad. But I'm like, well, I don't know. That's not a thing that he explored earlier. So I just it seems to come out of the blue. So he stabs his man. He stabs him in the diner, and everyone records it. It doesn't seem to do anything because he just drives off.
He just drives off, and he's not immediately caught by traffic cameras or other people tackling him or anything that's what a logical thing would happen in the real world. I mean, movies are movies, but some things has to be rooted in reality, man.
Yeah. You are absolutely right about that. There's even a scene later where he's stolen the minivan, and so now he's driving the minivan, and we all know what minivans look like. They are the least intimidating looking vehicle on the road. But you're supposed to be this. The shots are real low, and you're supposed to be the minivan's coming up, and I'm like, this is hilarious. This is not scary. This is not dramatic. I did not like this movie at all. I was just okay. Well, let me say, I was hoping that maybe at the end they would say something, right? That there would. Again, the image of a humongous Russell Crowe. I've never seen Russell Crowe this big. Yeah. So I'm like, the image of a really big Russell Crowe and this small woman is interesting. And he's just full of rage and anger. They're both having terrible days, right? They both seem to have terrible lives. So I thought, and she's not doing this. So I'm like, okay, are they going to explore that? No, they seem to make you think what he's doing makes some sort of logical sense. I don't get it. It's one of those movies where I can tell, I know, I don't even have to look at IMDb. I know that this movie was directed by a guy, written by a guy, and you can tell. And there were no women, no black people, no nothing, just a bunch of white guys in a room writing this film on a napkin apparently, because the film's not written very well. And then they release it. I don't know how they got Russell Crowe in this thing. Dang.
Me neither, man. I'm like. Well, yeah, I know I talked about movies in the past where actors who star in these movies that are crappy, like Snakes on a Plane, whatever. These actors just do it as a favor to the studio, a favor to the director or whatever. And I know Russell Crowe did an interview for Vanity Fair where he goes down his list of his best movies that he's done, and this was the last movie that he talked about. And I know that in his mind, he said that the reason why, I think that I have to look at the interview again, but I'm pretty sure it's somewhere, I'm paraphrasing, where he's like, I've never seen a character on here where it's so gruesome and so bad that he didn't want to play him at all in the beginning. And then he went back, I think he said he talked to his wife about it, and then he started, thinking like, because it was such a bad character, that he should play this character. And I'm like,
no, he should.
No,
should have rethought
that. Should have rethought that.
Because he is so thinly written, and like such a cardboard cutout that he's kind of a cartoon almost.
They don't even
right?
give him a name. And he's just man.
Yep, he is. Yep, he's just man. He's just guy. He calls himself Tom, but this is clearly a fake name. Yeah. But so he doesn't have a name. But his character is so thinly sketched out. Same with the mom. She's super thinly sketched out. The kid also thinly sketched out. And it I don't know, man. It's a super flimsy film. And the film, if you want to talk about a theme, I guess if there ever was a theme, it's that technology is bad. And so there are scenes where they have to use technology, right? Like they have to use a phone, but conveniently the mom. This is like a late 20s, early 30s person. She doesn't have a lock on her phone.
Just check the traffic for me, please. You don't have your passcode anymore? Not since I almost crashed trying to unlock it.
So, what are the odds of that?
He can get into everything.
Ridiculous. That's just
like
even the odds of that are outrageous.
He got into her bank account, and even if you don't have a lock on your phone, your app still has
your password or something.
Something you have to put in for your your phone. It has to.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. This film was written by like an 85-year-old. He probably just this old man just heard that you could access your bank account numbers through your phone, and he was like, "What?" and he wrote a film about it.
Yeah, and he was like, "Yeah," but no one came and talked to him, or the writers be like, "Well, even if your phone is unlocked, the app says you do have to have a username and password either way. Right. So how would our man character get inside that? And how will he be able to how would he be able to use that tracker of the phone and also for the iPad that's taped underneath the seat and
yeah, the big reveal is that he taped the iPad under the seat, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's taped under the seat. He can track us now." I'm like, what? It's so lame. And so, and this was a stupid idea because they're like, okay, we've got the iPad, so now we can track him. Let's use the iPad to check. Oh, the battery died. It's like, oh, great, convenient.
Do you have the charger? No. I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
How do you not have a charger for your iPad, but you have a phone that's the same charger as your iPad? It's like people. I don't know if when you watch us on Mostly Wrong Opinions and when we talk about movies like this, that you want us to turn off our brains. We can't do that. We can't, and we won't.
Even if you turn off your brain, you gotta shut down completely. You gotta go to sleep in order for this movie to make any sense at all. It's a ridiculous joke of a film, in my opinion. I just was shocked. Now, what's interesting about this film, what's notable about it, I think one of the main reasons why we reviewed it, is this was one of the first movies to be released. Actually, I believe it was the first movie to be released after theaters opened during the pandemic in 2020.
Right.
So this movie actually did pretty well, for the pandemic in the box office. I think it got like 40 million, which is not a lot, but that's for during the pandemic. That was like big deal. It was the number one movie for a long time.
They didn't know if anybody was going to come to the theater, so.
Yeah, exactly. And this one was the first one to go to the theater, and it didn't do too bad. It didn't bomb out. So that's one of the main reasons why we reviewed it. But I mean, you'd have to be, I think, so desperate to actually go to the theater during a pandemic to watch Unhinged. Wow, I would be pissed off. Like, imagine getting COVID because you wouldn't go see Unhinged. Literally, what we just said is the whole plot. That's it. They drive around. There's a little subplot about Fortnite, and the little boy plays Fortnite, and he has a Fortnite strategy, and the mom uses the Fortnite strategy to try and outsmart Russell Crowe. I don't know how that. Yes, I would yawn. That's my reaction too.
I didn't think to.
No, that was a natural. That was my reaction. I yawned too. There's not much to say about this movie. Something about Fortnite, using strategies in Fortnite in real life. I don't know, man.
Let me tell you, when he was having his discussion about what's the proper way to handle a person in front of you, and he was like, just give it a double tap, beep, beep, and stuff like that. Guess what, people, that comes back around at the end on a one-liner.
Oh, yeah, they have a one-liner. I thought about you, too. I thought about you, and I thought about Judge Dredd. He's like, court's adjourned.
Exactly. She did a Judge Dredd, Sylvester Stallone, and she said, how's this word? Double tap. And she kicks these scissors into his brain that she got from the counter at her house. And
Here's your fucking courtesy tap.
Court's adjourned.
Yeah.
He's dead. We're not gonna spend any more time on this, people. It's a 1.5.
The 1.5, yeah. I flirted with my 0. I flirted with it. I was like, man, I throw a 0 on this. I ain't gonna do it, but I'm gonna give it a 1. I'm gonna give it a 1. This was a rock solid 1. This is the perfect movie to have on while you're vacuuming the floor.
That's right.
And your back.
That's right.
and your back is to the TV. You can't hear it. Perfect movie for that.
Oh man, it sure is. Put down the toy, Jermaine. Put it down. You see, I'm trying to watch this movie. Jermaine up in there like, you ain't watching no movie. You vacuuming. I'm playing my toy.
Yep.
Oh boy. But thank you for clicking on this video, everyone. I hope you like our review of this movie. That is our review for Unhinged, I guess.
You better bring your A game. You're gonna need it.
Thank you guys for clicking on this video. Can you do us a favor? Please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you stay updated with everything we do right here on Mostly Wrong Opinions. I am Tyrone, and you can find me on my social media account, which is my band account on Instagram at Yerp_ATL. And yes, I am a video game streamer. I just haven't been on, but I will be back on this coming up Friday with Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. And you can find me live on twitch.tv/EuropeNationGaming. And of course, my reaction channel, Europe Nation Reactions. Good stuff, people. And find me here on Mostly Wrong Opinions.
And I am Devin. You can find my personal Instagram at DevinHarris29. Both me and Tyrone, are on TikTok under Mostly Wrong Opinions. Yeah, there you go. That's all he ever does.
All I ever do.
Dance.
Bam.
Yeah. You can find some of my writing at GeekSleepRepeat.com, and you can also find me right here at Mostly Wrong Opinions.
All right, everyone, that is it. Please do me a favor. Yes, you can leave a like, or you can leave a dislike. Whatever it is, it's your opinion, but just remember, it is mostly wrong. You guys have a good day, night, weekend, everything. Peace.